Hello, I'm Samantha Jolly. It's 4 o'clock and these are our top stories in Perth this afternoon. Too close to call the final push in the race to the White House. A Perth woman attacked by a delivery driver at her front door. Tax scandal, Chris Ellison forced to step down from Mineral Resources. Bad call, an AFL umpire suspended over another costume party controversy. And a Right Royal reading. The Duchess of York inspires the next generation of authors as she kicks off her book tour here in Perth. In the final 2 days of campaigning and with polls neck and neck, both US presidential hopefuls are barnstorming the battleground states. Donald Trump told supporters in Pennsylvania he wouldn't mind if the press was shot at, while Kamala Harris promised a fresh start at a rally in Michigan. Correspondent Tim Lester reports.
Donald Trump made his way here to small-town Kinston in central North Carolina today for one of his many pre-election rallies. As he came, new polling in the rural state of Iowa suggests his grip on rural and small-town America may not be as strong as many had thought. It shows in a state where he held a commanding lead just several months ago, Kamala Harris now leads by the narrowest of margins.
They just announced a fake poll. Hey, think of it. Right before the election, that I'm 3 points down. I'm not down in Iowa.
Not even Democrats believe they're about to win Iowa, but they do say this could be a sign that some of the 5% or so of the American electorate who hadn't decided up until recently may have moved firmly towards Kamala Harris, and that might affect the vote in some of the real battleground states nearby. This as Donald Trump ramped up his violence rhetoric at a campaign rally earlier in Pennsylvania.
I have a piece of glass over here, and I have this piece of glass here. But all we have really over here is the fake news, right? To get me, somebody would have to shoot through the fake news, and I don't mind that so much.
The Trump message growing darker the closer he gets to Election Day, a contrast to the Democrat Kamala Harris, who's been campaigning today in Michigan.
I am feeling great. I am looking forward to these next 48 hours to continue to talk with the voters. So my ballot is on its way to California, and I'm going to trust the system that it will arrive there.
Most major polls have the two candidates way too close to make any confident predictions about the outcome of the election. Already, more than 74 million Americans have voted out of a likely total of 150 to 160 million.
And coming up at 4:30, we'll return to the United States to explain just how America's Electoral College voting system works. A delivery driver has been arrested after allegedly assaulting a woman while dropping off food to her Belia home. Police allege the 41-year-old indecently assaulted the victim at her front door on Sunday. He fled to his car when a housemate came to the woman's aid, crashing it into a fence and driving away. Billionaire Chris Ellison has sensationally announced he will step down as the boss of Mineral Resources and pay back millions of dollars after the board found he used company resources for personal gain. Jeff Parry joins me now. Jeff, how did this happen?
Well, Sam, the MinRes board ordered an inquiry into the managing director, Chris Ellison, and what came back was impossible to ignore. It's a smorgasbord of shortcomings and financial impropriety that has trashed the reputation of Mr. Ellison and damaged the company brand. Chris Ellison and MinRes are serious players in the WA resources industry. It has interests in the mining service industry, iron ore, lithium. Last week, it sold its oil and gas leases for more than $1 billion. Chris Ellison enriched himself and his shareholders since founding the company in 1992, but in recent years, the lines blurred between Mr. Ellison's personal interests and that of his shareholders. There was an offshore tax issue, conflicts of interest, use of MinRes staff to work on his boat and properties. These things went unnoticed or ignored for years.
It is the board's responsibility to make sure that the finances are audited. It is the board's responsibility to make sure a CEO has the right metrics to work with, and it's not just financial, it's ethical framework as well that needs to be considered.
Mr Ellison will pay financial penalties exceeding $18 million. That's a tiny fraction of his total wealth. And he'll be out of that job inside 18 months. But is that sufficient? We'll have more on that in the news at 6, Sam.
All right, Jeff, thanks for joining us. An AFL umpire has been suspended after another end-of-season costume scandal. Lee Housen has admitted he dressed up as terrorist Osama bin Laden at the umpire's end-of-season function. The event was held the day after the grand final in a private room at a Melbourne restaurant, with the theme characters from the 2000s. The AFL said in a statement there were no skits involved and he wore a mask, but only for a short period of time before removing it. After long delays, an inquest into the disappearance of William Tyrrell has finally resumed and is considering a theory that the 3-year-old died in an accidental fall. Police believe his foster mother may have then disposed of his body, a claim she has always denied.
Good afternoon. Well, this is the 5th and second last hearing into the inquest of the suspected death of William Tyrrell. There have been repeated delays. The coroner was due to hand down her findings in 2021, but police asked for a suspension so they could conduct further investigations. Surprisingly, the now officer in charge, David Laidlaw, will not be giving evidence. His statement will be tendered, though large parts of it will be redacted. Why? We don't know, which raises the question, what was contained in the file which sat on the desk of the DPP recommending charges potentially be laid against William's foster parents. The theory they were involved will be examined in the coming days, including evidence from experts on bone disintegration, soil and waterways in the area. William Tyrrell disappeared from his foster grandmother's Kendall home in 2014, and despite one of the state's biggest searches, he hasn't been found. The latest theory by police is that he fell from the balcony at the home and died, and his foster mother covered it up, dumping his body in bushland. A number of videos will be played during this hearing, including 2 interviews with the child that was at the home at the time. With all this additional evidence, it could take many months for the coroner to deliver her findings.
A Perth man who suffered a life-threatening head injury in a motorcycle crash in Bali has arrived home on a Medivac flight. Dylan Brown was placed in a coma after he crashed his bike last Tuesday while holidaying on the island. He suffered bleeding on the brain before being rushed to hospital and into emergency surgery. An online fundraiser to bring him home has raised more than $135,000. One person who remains anonymous donated $40,000. The 21-year-old touched down in Perth last night and is now in Royal Perth Hospital in a critical but stable condition. Westpac has posted a $7 billion full-year profit, a 3% decline on last year as the mortgage market heats up. It also announced a $1 billion increase in its shares buyback program. Business editor Amelia Brace with the figures.
Australia's second largest mortgage lender is feeling the crunch of competition. Westpac's full-year profit came in slightly below analyst expectations, falling 3% to $7 billion. The slide in profits is due to a competitive mortgage market, with borrowers shopping around for a better deal, putting pressure on its margins. Westpac CEO Peter King acknowledged that customers are struggling, with more than 47,000 seeking hardship arrangements to pay their mortgages, most needing help for about 3 months. Despite that, he said the economy was showing positive signs.
We've seen consumer sentiment has increased in the last survey. We've seen inflation on a headline basis in the band, on an underlying basis heading towards the RBA's band.
Today's results come on the eve of the next Reserve Bank decision on interest rates. Westpac does not think we'll see any movement tomorrow. In fact, all of the big 4 banks don't predict a cut until February.
Inflation has come down a long way, but still a little on the high side. Jobs still travelling a little fast, and the Reserve will want to see what happens in the US election.
We'll find out if the RBA board agrees tomorrow afternoon.
Federal politicians are back in Canberra today for the first time since the flight perk scandal broke. And as Rob Scott reports, the issue isn't going away.
Rather than dwelling on this topic, the Prime Minister would very much like to be talking about the plan he announced yesterday to slash 20% off all student debt. Meeting with university and TAFE students here at Parliament House this afternoon, students who are set to save thousands as a result of the policy.
It'll make such a huge difference, yeah. Have any of you worked out how much you'll save from this?
$7,000 for me.
$7,000.
$7,000, which is going to make my life a bit easier, hopefully.
Great. Yeah, at a time when you need it, when you're trying to get yourself settled and starting your working life.
That media opportunity clearly arranged to try to generate another day of coverage for the policy, which the government says will make life easier for about 3 million young Australians. But the flight upgrade scandal was always going to suck the oxygen out of the political debate, with the number of MPs handing back memberships to the Qantas Chairman's Lounge growing by the day.
I think you'll see when you look in the next 28 days at the register of interest, there'll be quite a few people who will be handing back their membership to airline lounges.
I've been calling on the airlines to stop all upgrades for politicians, because I think this is in fact affecting the public trust in politicians, and that's really important.
Greens leader Adam Bant, who is still a member of the Qantas Chairman's Lounge, says he's open to banning all politicians from asking for and receiving flight upgrades for personal travel.
Sarah Ferguson has kicked off her Australian book tour right here in WA. Chantel Toohey caught up with the Duchess of York, who has signed a children's book deal with a Perth publisher.
Sarah Ferguson is visiting Waikiki Primary School. She was supposed to only be here for half an hour reading to the children, but she's clearly having an absolute ball and has been here for a lot longer than that. I'll let you take a look.
You've got lovely red hair, haven't you?
It's orange. She's ginger hair.
That means I have ginger hair too. And all gingers are great, aren't we? We're great gingers. I would like to say that ginger hair we are an endangered species because we're so special. And you've got blue eyes as well. And I would like to say that I'm really proud to see you. And I'm really proud to say that you are going to go a long way.
I'm just a big fan of her, and I like her, yeah.
And he said that too.
Yeah, you big fan?
Yeah, she's a good person, and she's awesome.
Oh, I'm so excited. Why didn't he listen to Mum's warning not to go to the tall gum tree today because the wind was changing? Oh dear, another pickle I've got myself in too, says Cubby. You see, the thing is, every day we all make mistakes, we all learn things, we all aren't perfect.
This is certainly a day these children will never forget.
You're watching Seven's Afternoon News live from Perth. Coming up after the break, royal rage, flood survivors pelt mud at the Spanish King and Queen. And later, Australia's teen sprint sensation strikes again, running up new track records.
The 7 News app will give you the news you want every minute of every day, including breaking news alerts. Download the 7 News app now.
You're watching 7's 4 p.m. news live from Perth. Right now, it is 18 degrees in the city and the forecast is coming up soon. The King and Queen of Spain had mud and abuse hurled at them during a visit to the flood zone. An attempt to calm and console locals backfired as survivors rage over the response to the disaster that's killed at least 217 people. Ben Downey reports.
This is an outburst that felt inevitable. One of the unifying sentiments inside the flood zone is one of anger as well as abandonment at authorities. King Felipe came to express sympathy and was met by an angry mob shouting murderer, shame and get out as he arrived nearly a week after the floods. Queen Letizia left by Porta crying and in shock with mud on her face. It's the town most devastated by the disaster Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez describes as the European continent's worst flood in a century. He was also chased out of the town with residents hurling mud and debris at his convoy. Most residents didn't receive alerts until hours after floodwaters had destroyed their homes and killed their loved ones. Much of the anger is also directed at Valencian President Carlos Mazón after he posed for tourism photo ops instead of chairing disaster meetings and issuing alerts the day of the disaster. With the death toll now passing 200 people, anger is also being fueled by the fact it's volunteers, not the military or authorities, leading the recovery response.
39 buildings have been destroyed and close to 100 were damaged when a tornado swept across Oklahoma City. No one was killed, but 11 people were taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. More than 5,000 homes remain without power. Airstrikes have hit a city in eastern Lebanon after the Israeli army issued an evacuation warning. Smoke could be seen rising from the Baalbek area, which has recently come under sustained attack. The IDF says the region is a Hezbollah stronghold and that it was targeting terror fighters. A woman has been arrested after a daring protest at a university in Iran, stripping down to her underwear after reportedly being stopped by campus police for not wearing a headscarf. Security forces surrounded the woman and bundled her into a car. Local media say she was taken to a police station before being transferred to a psychiatric centre. A uni spokesperson claiming she had a mental disorder. Geraldton and Bunbury have been named the worst regional towns in WA for dog attacks on posties. He's Noel Running from 7 News Regional WA.
Sam, neighbourhood posties are being attacked by dogs as many as 10 times a day, and WA is the third worst state in the country. That's according to Australia Post. Bosses are calling on city and shire councils to be stricter on offending owners, urging people to keep their pets locked at the back of the house to protect delivery workers. Tourism in the Great Southern is warming up ahead of summer. The first ship of the season arriving in Albany this morning with more than 3,000 passengers getting off to explore the south of our state. Geraldton, meanwhile, is preparing to wave goodbye to the industry with just a handful of ships due over the next month and none planned in the next 2 years. And a Geraldton basketball player puts hard work and determination behind his NBA success. Alex Dukas joining the Oklahoma City Thunder this season after rising through the ranks of US college basketball. He's the first from our Midwest city to become an NBA player.
Ahead this news hour, we return to the US to explain just how America's confusing electoral college voting system works and your complete guide to tomorrow's Melbourne Cup. Ryan Daniels joins us now. Ryan, the summer of cricket is here.
Finally, Sam, the first ODI today, and the Aussies have made a good start so far. The highlights from the MCG straight after the break. Plus, Ange's Spurs put on a show in the Premier League. And Mad Max pulls off an incredible win in Brazil. The international summer of cricket is underway, with Pat Cummins sending Pakistan into bat in the first one-dayer in front of a small MCG crowd. Coldplay's Chris Martin settled in to watch a hot opening spell from Mitchell Starc. Saeem and Abdullah gone. It was 2 for 24.
Oh, there's some noise. It's brushed the glove or bat.
That left Pakistan relying on the mercurial Babar Azam, who got going with boundaries off Cummins and Starc. Captain Mohammad Rizwan led the way with 44 off 71 balls. Pakistan eventually fell for 203. Starc the best of the bowlers with 3 for 33. Regan Bayliss knows firsthand how winning the big dance is a game changer. Since Attractable's victory last year, trainer Sarah Ryan's operation has doubled in size. Bayliss is out to go back-to-back tomorrow, but on a different horse.
Regan Bayliss rides Michael Friedman's Ducasse tomorrow. Winning the big dance last year aboard Attractable was one of his great thrills in racing.
The crowd was just phenomenal. It was electric out there.
Before Attractable's win, Wyong trainer Sarah Ryan had 20 horses in work. Now she has 45.
Sarah's always been a good trainer, sort of on the way up. And that really put her name up in lights.
UK raider Lake Forest's Golden Eagle triumph was huge for another raider. More than $500,000 going to the Ricky Stewart Foundation for families and individuals living with autism.
It's a wonderful concept and helps so many charities. It just gives us an advantage in being able to help a lot more other families now.
With the Melbourne Cup parade cancelled for the second straight year due to CBD roadworks, the trophy was on display with Gay at Living Legends Farm.
And lots of young people here. How are you all guys going? Why aren't you at school today?
Gay's runner Just Fine took it easy this morning along with co-favourite Buckaroo, one of 5 Chris Waller runners.
He said, I'm ready to go, so that was great with him.
Nick Markham, 7 News.
There's no doubt Tottenham are the entertainers of the Premier League. This time they came from behind to beat top 4 contenders Aston Villa. Trailing at half-time, Ange Postecoglou's men scored 4 times. They've scored the most goals of all teams, but still sit 7th on the table.
Maddison going quickly. Oh! The seal set on an impressive victory.
In the first league game since the sacking of Erik ten Hag, Manchester United drew 1-1 with Chelsea. In 1,121 Grand Prix, only 5 drivers had won from 17th on the grid or lower until Max Verstappen's masterful performance in the wet, dangerous conditions that nearly troubled everyone else in the Brazilian GP. It leaves the Dutchman on the verge of a 4th Drivers' Championship.
I mean, unbelievable to win here from so far back on the grid. We stayed out of trouble, we made the right calls, we stayed calm, and we were flying.
From pole, Lando Norris dropped to 6th and now trails Verstappen by 62 points with 3 races to go. Aussie Oscar Piastri struggled in 8th. Somehow, Aussie Jack Miller is okay after this.
Damage further back, big crash further back, and a real first corner melee here.
The Aussie's head hit another bike's tyre in the huge Malaysian Grand Prix pile-up. Francesco Bagnaia kept the title race alive. He trails Jorge Martin by 24 points, heading into the final round. That's all from me for now. Sam, plenty more sport at 6 o'clock.
OK, we'll see you at 6. Thank you, Ryan. Now, in the lead up to Christmas, Australia Post is pleading with dog owners to keep their pets under control. There's been a frightening surge in attacks on posties. In the past 6 months alone, there have been more than 1,200 incidents across the country. In WA, Rockingham, Nedlands, Geraldton and Bunbury are the worst suburbs for attacks.
Someone rings the doorbell, put your dog in another room. We often find the dogs sneak through the door as soon as it's opened.
Australia Post wants councils to implement tougher measures on dangerous dogs. It's one of the biggest movie premieres of the year. A busy Sydney street transformed into the yellow brick road to welcome the cast of Wicked. The 6 leading stars kicking off a global press tour in the city.
Munchkinland shuts down Market Street in Sydney, the long-running Broadway stage musical now massive Hollywood blockbuster, The Untold Story of Oz, where 2 young women meet as students at Shiz University before becoming Glinda the Good and the Wicked Witch of the West.
It feels really beautiful to work on something that you are passionate about and work on something where the message resonates on every page.
Being here with everyone and even just getting off the plane with everybody and just being like, here we go. It's all happening after such a long time.
As well as witches, munchkins and talking animals, there's Fiero, a carefree prince.
Dancing through life, mindless and careless. I'm Fiero.
Oh, Oz.
The film is so fantastic, but I feel in your part there's a kind of a little bit of a flavour of Backstreet Boys, Nick Carter flavour.
How did you've gone straight to my mood board. It was Justin Timberlake sort of, yeah.
The pink and green is just, it's really wonderful.
My mom came at 6 in the morning to scope it out.
And your mom came here?
Oh yes, she came here and she somehow got through the barrier. I think she was like, I'm Glinda's mom or something, and then she came in and she was sending pictures of all the fans who have been here since last night.
5 a.m. People have been here since 5 a.m.
I know.
Morning.
Some people slept over.
Oh my gosh.
It's too much.
We didn't expect this.
There's chemistry and then there's you two, which seems like such a beautiful friendship too.
Yeah. That's it.
That's really it.
I think we were just trying to be as truthful and as honest as we possibly could with these women, these wonderful ladies that we got to play, and I hope that's what happens.
Coming up on 7's Afternoon News, police arrest a delivery driver accused of indecently assaulting a Perth woman as he dropped food at her door. And an inquest into the disappearance of a Kalgoorlie woman begins 2 decades after she went missing. Why 2 key witnesses won't be giving evidence. Hello, you're watching 7's Afternoon News live from Perth. Here are the top stories. Shocking assault. A woman indecently assaulted by a delivery driver at her front door in Perth South. Inquest begins, but a key witness won't be called. What happened to Lisa Govan when she disappeared more than 2 decades ago? Stepping down, billionaire mineral resources boss Chris Ellison ousted by the board. Plus, the stage is set for the race that stops the nation. Thousands flood into Victoria ahead of the 164th Melbourne Cup. And we could get some spring showers tomorrow before the sunshine returns. I'll have your full forecast later this hour. A delivery driver has been arrested after allegedly assaulting a woman while dropping off food to her Belia home. Police say he crashed his car while fleeing the scene. Nick Overall has the details.
Well, this frightening incident happened just after 6 o'clock last night near Congdon Avenue and Belia Drive. Police say a 41-year-old food delivery driver from Hamilton Hill was out delivering an order when he indecently assaulted a woman at a home in Belia. She called out to her flatmate for help. It was only then, police say, the delivery driver fled the scene. He was driving a Toyota Yaris. Police say he hit a fence while fleeing and that he did not stop. Coburn police caught up with him later that night, though. It's understood he was arrested at his home in Hamilton Hill. He's now been charged with indecent assault and reckless driving. He's set to face Fremantle Court later this month.
More than 2 decades after she went missing, an inquest into the disappearance of Kalgoorlie woman Lisa Govan has begun. But the 2 men closest to Lisa before she vanished will not give evidence. Lucy Murray explains.
Good afternoon. After 25 years without answers, Lisa Govan's parents have come here to the Coroner's Court in Perth. She disappeared without a trace. The 28-year-old was last seen outside the Kalgoorlie clubhouse of the Darrow's Outlaw motorcycle gang at 7:30 in the morning of the 8th of October 1999. She'd been to various bars and nightclubs in the mining town overnight, and security cameras showed her with patch bikie Andrew Edhouse. The inquest heard Edhouse was once arrested on suspicion of Lisa's murder, but was released without charge. He won't face the coroner as police officers can't find him. It's believed he's overseas. Lisa's boyfriend at the time, Timothy Hamill, will also not be called to give evidence.
I'm disappointed. I'm very annoyed as well. I don't know if they would have given any evidence that we needed, but at least it would have been something had they just rocked up. I just hope to get the answers. We've waited 25 years and it's a hell of a time now.
Detective Senior Sergeant Timothy Lyons examined the police file last year, telling the inquest he believes Lisa died in the clubhouse. But without the cooperation of bikies and associates, there's insufficient evidence to pursue charges against any person at this time. A $1 million reward is still on offer in the hope it can break a bikie code of silence and finally crack this cold case.
Billionaire Chris Ellison will step down as the boss of Mineral Resources within 18 months after an internal investigation found he used company resources for personal gain. The inquiry found Mr Ellison directed MinRes employees to work on his boat and property and had a company worker manage his personal finances. Mr Ellison will have to pay the company back $3.8 million for a tax dodge, $5 million to charity over 5 years, and he will lose his $3.1 million bonus for 2024. Polling shows Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are effectively tied in one of the closest US election races in history. But the voting system Americans use is entirely different to how we vote in Australia. Foreign editor Hugh Whitfeld explains.
When Americans head to the polls on November 5th, they won't actually be voting for Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. Instead, they'll be voting for a series of electors that make up the Electoral College. Today, there are 538 electors, and each state is given a number of these based roughly on their population, combining their allocation of Congress seats in the House and Senate. In order to win the presidency, a candidate must secure a majority of these electors, totalling 270 votes in the Electoral College. In most US states, these electors are awarded to the candidate that candidate wins the most votes. For example, in 2016, all 29 of Florida's Electoral College votes were awarded to Donald Trump, despite Hillary Clinton securing nearly 48% of the vote in that state, which is why a candidate can win the national vote while losing the Electoral College. The exceptions to this rule are Nebraska and Maine, who award their electors based on each district's vote. While all 50 states are in play each election, just a handful typically decide the outcome. And in 2024, the election will likely come down to just 7 swing states: Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan and Wisconsin. Whichever candidate manages to win over more voters in these battlegrounds will likely become the next President of the United States of America. Hugh Whitfield, 7 News.
A toddler has survived after being attacked by a deadly eastern brown snake in his Adelaide backyard. The 2-year-old, who is still learning to walk, managed to alert his mum, who was inside doing the laundry.
And then he comes running to the door saying a snake bit him. To have that thought of my son is going to die, there's no words to describe that.
Fortunately, Ezra received a dry bite, which means no venom was injected. Curtin University has joined forces with NASA to study the colour of the ocean from space. Researchers have deployed a 15-metre tall buoy off Rottnest Island. It will play a critical role in verifying observations from a NASA satellite designed to monitor ocean health. The buoy and satellite will measure the colour of the ocean by monitoring the presence of phytoplankton that produces more than half the world's oxygen and absorb almost as much carbon dioxide as all the trees on Earth. In places where there is lots of phytoplankton, the ocean has a green tinge. Interstate travellers are cruising into Victoria ready for tomorrow's Melbourne Cup. An astonishing 1 in 10 visitors to Flemington will have arrived in the city by boat, bringing crucial tourism dollars with them.
It's all aboard the Melbourne Cup cruise. Almost 3,000 Sydney-siders have sailed into the city ready for the race that stops a nation. The 6-day cruise offers fashions at sea, fascinator making, Q&As with champion jockeys and, of course, a ticket to the big day. Another 2 cruise ships will arrive here at Port Melbourne tomorrow morning, making up a total of more than 10% of all Cup attendees.
But we bring that kind of Melbourne Cup atmosphere to the ship the second that you embark in Brisbane or Sydney, and we keep that going on the build-up right the way over to Melbourne for the Cup.
They brought their outfits into us and their matching colours, a lot of reds, pinks, metallics, and they're coming away with coordinated now outfits to wear on Tuesday.
Melbourne Cup Day is one day that brings goosebumps back to my body, obviously being lucky enough to win 2 of them in 83 and 97, but a fantastic day. A lot of people on the cruise are going for their first time.
Earlier today, 1,000 lucky racing fans gathered at Greenvale for the Living Legends event, a substitute for the Melbourne Cup parade, which was cancelled for the 2nd year running due to roadworks in the city. Attendees were given the opportunity to feed some of the champion horses and pose with the $750,000 trophy, which is now making its way back to Flemington ahead of the $8 million race.
Stay with us after the break. The ultimate stage fright for Coldplay's Chris Martin. Australian teenage sprinter Gout has again shown why he's a force to be reckoned with on the athletics world stage. At the weekend, he pulled off a blistering run in the All-Schools Queensland Track and Field Championships. The 16-year-old stormed to an astonishing 20.29 second finish in the 200-metre heats. That's 0.01 of a second faster than Usain Bolt's record when he was the same age. It was a personal best, the fastest time by an Aussie in 31 years, and set several new records. Coldplay frontman Chris Martin has fallen through a trapdoor on stage while performing in Melbourne. The sold-out crowd gasped at the tumble, which was similar to a concert mishap for Olivia Rodrigo 3 weeks ago.
You're about to see the moment Coldplay star Chris Martin fell through the stage while performing in Melbourne. The 47-year-old was walking backwards, talking to the audience, when he suddenly fell through a trapdoor at Marvel Stadium.
That's not planned. Thank you for catching me.
A production staff member was able to catch him as he fell, and he pushed on with the final Melbourne show.
Thank you, guys. Holy shit. That was nearly a YouTube moment. Yeah, I'm okay, thank you, I'm okay.
If you are dealing with a performer like Chris Martin, who's very loose, who wanders the stage, he's very kind of free flow, and even walks backwards as he was here, you can't afford to have an open trapdoor. It's just not a risk you can take.
It comes just weeks after Olivia Rodrigo took a tumble on stage at a different Melbourne stadium.
Oh my God, that was fun. I'm okay. Sometimes there's just a hole in the stage.
It marks the second hurdle for Coldplay after Guy Berryman fell ill and failed to take the stage for night one of the Music of the Spheres tour.
Our beautiful bass player Guy is very, very sick. I'm sorry for all of you guys down here who are waiting to see Guy. He's not going to be able to play today.
The band will continue their tour with 4 more shows in Sydney. Their final performance of the year will be in New Zealand.
Influencer Kim Kardashian has come under fire for wearing a piece of jewellery made famous by Princess Diana. Critics took to social media calling Kardashian vulgar and revolting. The reality TV star purchased the crucifix for $300,000 at Sotheby's auction last year. Diana wore the same piece at a charity gala in 1987. The Australian share market has started the week on a positive note. Here's James Tao from ING Bank.
Good afternoon. The Aussie market has started the week on a high with the ASX 200 snapping a 3-day losing streak. The index today up about 45 points or just over 0.5%. And banks were a major support today. We had the big four or higher. Westpac up around 1% following the release of its profit results. A $7 billion profit for the year was slightly ahead of analyst expectations, and the stock actually opened down about 2.5% but managed to overturn that throughout the day. There was some weakness from the mining sector, though. We had the major miners or lower mineral resources today, one of the worst, down about 9%. There was an announcement from the company that its managing director and founder, Chris Ellison, will be stepping aside within the next 18 months. And the Aussie dollar, it's a little firmer as well against a weaker US dollar. It's now buying about 66.1 US cents.
Perth 6pm news is coming up with Rick and Sue. Sue, what's on the program?
Sam, a Perth school teacher is on trial accused of indecently dealing with a student. We'll tell you the worrying list of charges he's facing at 6. A warning from a grieving family for anyone heading overseas for cosmetic surgery to think again. A mother of 5 has died after undergoing cheap liposuction. Exclusive, the new campaign for travellers making sure you can spot the subtle signs of human trafficking. We reveal what you should look out for. And supermarket thieves are preying on struggling families as the cost of living crisis continues to spiral. Our police are catching out crooks selling food right in front of supermarkets. All that plus more coming up soon. Sam.
Thank you, Sue. We'll see you at 6. China's Shenzhou spaceship has returned to Earth. It touched down at a landing site this morning. The 3 astronauts on board are said to be in good health. The crew spent the past 6 months on China's space station, carrying out specific experiments and completing 2 walks. 3 new koalas have taken up residence in WA as part of a national breeding program designed to combat declining numbers in the wild. Habitat loss, disease, road strikes, dog attacks and bushfires have reduced koala numbers so much on the east coast, they're now listed as an endangered species. Miffy, a 7-year-old female, and Louis and Franklin Doogsy, 18-month-old brothers, have been released into the Yanchep National Park. They join the park's existing koala residents, 19-year-old Kate and 14-year-old Kuda. We've had a mild and cloudy afternoon in the city. I'll tell you what's in store for the week ahead after the break.
Now, Fuel Watch. Perth's petrol prices brought to you by Fuel Watch and 7 News.
Checking the weather now, we had a mild top of 22 degrees in the city this afternoon. Taking a look at the national forecast first, Melbourne and Hobart will be mostly sunny tomorrow. Sydney could get a shower or two, a top of 23 there. It will be warm and humid in Brisbane, a cloudy maximum of 32 degrees. Back to Perth, down to 15 tonight. It will be partly cloudy tomorrow with a chance of showers, most likely in the morning. Wednesday is looking cool and cloudy, 21 the top. It will be a chilly start to the day on Thursday with the temperature getting down to just 9 degrees, but we will have a sunny maximum of 23. There's a possible shower forecast for Friday morning, but the blue skies and warmer weather will return in time for the weekend, 27 both days. And that is Perth's 4 p.m. news. I'm Samantha Jolly. I'll be back with Rick, Sue and Ryan for 7 News at 6. The Chase Australia is next.